Good evening, everyone. We will start this Sutra study class on Platform Sutra with the chanting of the Buddha's name and the Sutra opening verse. Namo, fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo, fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. Namo, fundamental teacher Shakyamuni Buddha. The Dharma, infinitely profound and subtle, is rarely encountered even in a million kalpas. Now we are able to hear, study, and follow it. May we fully realize the Tathagata's true meaning. Okay, very happy to see everyone here at the Miaofa Chan Meditation Center. This week is my first visit here and my first visit to Germany. So many things to see, many things to learn about Germany, and I hope I will be able to come back in the future. Today we are studying the Platform Sutra, which is the quintessential text on Chan Buddhism. So you probably, if you're in this class, you probably know already that this sutra is actually not spoken by the Buddha, even though it is called a sutra. But we Chinese revere this text so much, we call it a sutra. Now, Chan started in India from the Buddha himself. Is a way of presenting the teaching toward enlightenment. And according to our history, there are a sequence of Chan masters, enlightened masters in the Chan school, until the 28th Chan patriarch, the great Chan master, Bodhidharma, who came to China. And then the lineage continued in China. Bodhidharma became the first Chinese Chan master or Chan patriarch. And then his next generation, and the next generation, and the next generation, until the 6th generation, enlightened master will be Huineng. We call him the 6th patriarch, Master Huineng. And this text is a collection of his teachings, recorded by his disciple. It is a very beautiful text. It is special because Huineng himself grew up illiterate. So in China at the time of Tang Dynasty, which is about maybe 1500 years ago, maybe more like 15 or 1600 years ago, no, 13, 1400 years ago. Many people are illiterate still, and he was one of them. But he's very sharp, very intelligent. He was a wood chopper. But when he heard somebody reciting the Diamond Sutra, he immediately was able to grasp some of the essence of the Diamond Sutra. And he decided to become a monk, and he walked to search for the 5th patriarch of Chan. And eventually he was enlightened. And then later on, he became a great master himself, and he taught many people, from important government officials to lay people. But because he was not that literate, he's not a literati, right? He's not a very highly educated. So he expressed his teaching in everyday words that ordinary people, farmers, workers, laborers can understand. So he became very popular. And that teaching, as recorded in the Platform Sutra, is such a beautiful teaching because it's very deep in terms of the profound wisdom. But the words are very straightforward and plain. And there's a beauty in that, being able to explain very deep wisdom with very simple words. Now, I'm taking a particular passage from the Platform Sutra, from the chapter on sitting meditation. Sitting meditation in Chinese is called 坐禅. 坐 means to sit. 禅 is 禅. Now, in Japanese, which popularized Zen first, they call it Zazen. So if you read some books on Japanese Zen, you may have heard this term, Zazen. Za is to sit, Zen is Chan. So sitting meditation, well, it's a simple term, right? But Master Huineng has his own definition of what is to sit, to practice sitting meditation. He said, I will recite it first in Chinese and then translate it into English. 何谓坐禅？外于一切善恶境界心念不起，名为坐；内见自性不动，名为禅。And the line after that, 何名禅定？外离相为禅，内不乱为定。You got that? Okay, of course. So, probably most of you do not understand Chinese, but you heard Shifu say something, right? The sound. Up and down, you heard something. You use your knowing, the knowing part of your mind. Your mind knows. Through your ears, through your eyes, through your nose and tongue and body. You receive information. You receive sound and sights, smell, and so on. So your mind knows. If those of you who understood Chinese, you did something in addition, which is you received the information and you interpreted the information because you could understand Chinese. Those of you who did not understand Chinese, you received the information, you received the sound bites, but you were not able to interpret it. Yeah? When you interpret the information, it's what we call the consciousness. The consciousness part of your mind interprets and decides and tries to understand. And then decides, do I like it? Do I not like it? Does it make sense? Does it not make sense? And sometimes you interpret something and you get emotional. Sometimes you don't. So there's a consciousness part of your mind that works immediately after the knowing part. The knowing part just receives the information at the present moment. So as I spoke, 何谓坐禅? So every moment there's a sound. Your knowing part works in the present moment, receiving that different bit of sound as it comes out. But you're not able to interpret it, so your mind remains clear. Your mind remains still because you couldn't interpret it. Now, if you interpret it and you like what you hear, maybe you feel happy, you feel joy, and you don't like what you hear, maybe you feel upset, you feel angry, or sad. That's the consciousness part of your mind. So what did Master Huineng say actually about sitting meditation? He said, what is 坐禅? What is Zazen? What is 坐禅? What is sitting meditation? He said, what is sitting meditation? Let me explain to you. What is sitting meditation? To sit is to let the mind remain still, regardless of good or bad situations. That is to sit. To sit is to let the mind remain still, unmoving, regardless of good or bad situations. That means in any situation, anything that's happening, anything that you see, anything that you hear, your mind remains still. That is the training to sit. That's why he calls sit. And what is Chan? What is meditation? Is to see our original nature as unmoving. To see, to recognize, to perceive, to realize that our original nature is unmoving. Now, this is interesting. To sit, usually we think of sitting is our body sitting down. That's to sit. But the Chan master, he cares more about the mind, the mental state, than the physical state. So to Master Huineng, you don't have to practice sitting meditation when you're sitting down. You can practice sitting meditation when you're walking, or maybe when you're talking, when you're doing work. Because to sit is to let the mind remain still, regardless of the situation. Remain calm. Remain calm. Remain still. That is to sit. So you can think of it as we're talking about how to let the mind settle. Let the mind settle is to sit. How do you let the mind sit? Because what's important is to let the mind sit, not so much let the body sit. But the body sit is helpful. You know, when you practice meditation, you sit down, you don't do anything else, you don't walk around and turn on the TV or, watch your cell phone. That's helpful if you just sit down and don't do that. Let the body settle. But what's even more important, the essence of sitting meditation is to let the mind settle. Settle down. You know, when you have water, when you have a glass of water, and you have some dirt in the water, and you stir the water, it becomes cloudy, it becomes muddy, right? You don't see anything clear. It's muddy. How do you clear the water? You sit. You let the water sit. You don't have to do anything, you just let it sit. And over time, the dirt settles to the bottom of the glass, and you have clear water again. The water is like our mind. The dirt is like the delusion and the poisons in our mind. What are the poisons? Greed, anger, ignorance, arrogance, doubt, fear, worries. These are the dirt in our mind that make our mind water cloudy. So our mind becomes confused and we don't see the truth. We don't see clearly what's going on in my life. How do I see clearly what's going on in my life? Well, your vision has to be good, right? Your mental vision. How do you clear the mind? You sit. You let the mind settle. You let the mind settle. That's what's important in Chan meditation. You let the mind settle. But you can use many different ways, like counting the breath, observing the breath, chanting a scripture, chanting a sutra, or bowing. Bowing, many Chinese Buddhists, they practice bowing to the Buddha 100 times, 200 times a day, because he helps the mind settle. It's a way to help them. Walking meditation, help the mind settle. Yeah? So, to sit is to let the mind remain still regardless of good and bad situations. That is to sit. And Chan is to see our original nature as unmoving. What is our original nature? Well, if you look at yourself, what is my or you can say, what is my true self? Yeah? What is my true self? Who am I? What is the essence of me? What is my essence? Well, most people don't know how to answer this question. Many people go through their life looking for an answer. Many people give up. Okay, life is about work and making money and provide for your family. So they give up. That would be a shame. Don't give up. It's a difficult question, but if you persist in searching, you will have a chance to find it. For me, for Shifu, I asked this question when I was in college, once in a while, not very frequently. I usually ask the question, what is the meaning of life? Especially before a final exam. When I don't want to study, I say, what is the meaning of life? What is the meaning of studying? I don't have an answer. I didn't have an answer. After college, I got a job as a computer science software engineer. Then I have a lot of time to think about this. I start seriously searching. I look through Western philosophy, Eastern philosophy, and then Western religion, Eastern religion, and I found Zen, Chan. I found Chan. I found a book in English about Chan, and I said, wow, this is really interesting. This sounds profound. It sounds real, because a lot of philosophy that I try to study, it sounds like some intellectual musing, intellectual discussion. Some smart people just came up with it. But Buddhism, Chan, it sounds like real insight from real experience. This is real insight. Yeah? So I searched for 8 years until I was 30, and I met the Grandmaster Wei Jie. And his teaching was so to the point, to the very heart of Buddhism. What is the heart of Buddhism? Chan. What is the heart of Chan? Sitting meditation, sitting Chan, 坐禅. What is to sit? Is to let your mind remain still. Why? Because when your mind is still, you can see clearly. And when you see clearly, you can understand reality. When you can understand reality, when you can see reality, you get enlightened. When you get enlightened, you have answers to life. Answers to how not to suffer. What is true happiness? Even answers to what is life and death. You will understand. What is life? What is death? But we can't talk about all of that. So we'll focus on sitting meditation, 坐禅 today. So that is why you want the mind to be still. But if we look at our life from small and until we grow up, would your mind ever really still and clear? Not very often. Yeah? Usually, when your mind is still is when you're sleeping. Yeah, you're sleeping and your mind is still. But then there's no clarity, that's the problem. So it has to be still and clear. And or when your mind is not still, you are so busy thinking and working, dealing, or talking. By the way, less talking is good. The more you talk, the more your mind unsettles. Talk less. So you have time to reflect on what's going on in my mind, what is going on in my life. Cherish the quiet moments when you are alone. Set aside time every day. You can be alone and not do anything else, just to reflect. That is very beneficial. Every day, I do walking meditation and sitting meditation. And sometimes I'm not really practicing meditation. I'm just letting my mind settle. I'm just letting my mind settle. And sometimes beautiful insights just come up. When your mind is always busy, when you think your mind must be busy, then you miss out on a different part of your mind, mental world. The beautiful insight and the beautiful joy, the joy of serenity, the joy of being still, being calm, being at peace with yourself, come from the mind being still and not agitated, not moving all the time. Of course, you have to learn, you have to think, you have to judge, you have to talk. That's a different part of it, different side of you. But this also give yourself time to settle, Remember the water. When you let it sit there and don't touch it, it becomes clear by itself. Your mind can become more and more clear by itself. And when it does, you can see things you didn't see before. You can notice things you didn't notice before. You can understand things you didn't understand before. You can look back into a conversation you had, an argument you had, and you realize, oh, I misunderstood something. I missed something. I should have seen it before. It's there. The information is there. The knowing part of your mind already took in a lot of information, but we only process some of that. So we get biased. And we misunderstand people and misunderstand situations. We have fear about the unknown. But when your mind is still, it can better handle any situation. New, strange, unfamiliar situation, or old, familiar situation. You may have a new insight into an old familiar situation. For example, why do you keep on fighting with your kid? That's a familiar situation. So you need some new insight. Calm down and reflect. So, Master Huineng said, let your mind be still regardless of good and bad situations. So there are some good situations, there are some bad situations in our life. Good things, bad things happening. He said, don't move. But let's not misunderstand the teaching. You say, if my mind doesn't move, it's like a piece of wood, it's dead. Right? Why do you want to be dead? Or inert, cold, unfeeling? That's not what the Master means. Okay? It is because when your mind is calm and clear, you can see more reality, For example, good and bad is not necessarily good or bad. Yeah? I talked about this 2 days ago. Let me give you some more example. A story I gave was Old Man and the Horse. Those of you who were here last time. Old Man and the Horse, you remember? There was a Chinese old man, he raised horses. One day his horse ran away. So we'll think, oh, that's a bad thing because you lost something valuable. But then the horse came back a few days later with a new horse. So that's good, yeah? You gain something. See, our mind goes up and down with gain and loss. When we gain something, oh great. When we lose something, oh no. Good or bad? No, Master Huinan says, wait a minute. Don't judge so fast. Let your mind be still. So the horse came back with a new horse. So that's a good thing, right? Well, a few days later, the old man's son tried to tame the new horse, the wild horse. He fell off the horse, broke his leg. Oh, terrible, he broke his leg, right? Wait a minute. Be still. And then next month, there's war. There's war with a neighboring country. And all the young men got drafted, and many of them died on the battlefield. But the old man's son, because he broke his leg, he wasn't drafted. He stayed home. He was alive. So this story can go on and on. What's the point? The point is, good is not necessarily good. Bad is not necessarily bad. Actually, whether it's good or bad, you decide. You can decide. For example, in America, we have a chain of convenience stores called 7-Eleven. Do you have 7-Eleven here? No, right? Do you have something similar? Like a chain? No? Okay. So 7-Eleven was imported into Taiwan. So Taiwan have a chain of 7-Eleven stores. And then very soon, Chinese, they always imitate and then create. So they came up with their own chain of convenience stores, competing with 7-Eleven in Taiwan. So this new chain of stores called Tongyi. So it's a big company. It's a big, huge corporation. There's a VP in that company. They try to introduce new ideas into the convenience store model. So convenience store, you go there, you don't get fresh product, but you get maybe toilet paper, stationery, shampoo, and kind of things. Convenience store, yeah. But Taiwan is already very convenient. Why do we need a convenience store? There's so many stores all over the place, right? So they try to come up with new ideas. Like after a few years, the 7-Eleven and the convenience store in Taiwan, you can have your package delivered. You can pay your parking tickets. You can buy train tickets or bus tickets. You can do all kinds of things. You can have mail delivered to you, accepted at the convenience store. It's become really convenient. More convenient than 7-Eleven, right? So they are creative. Now, so the VP is always trying to come up with new ideas, new product. So he spent like millions of dollars, millions of euros to develop a new product because they have hundreds of stores, right, across Taiwan. So he developed for like 2 years and put this new product in every convenience store in hundreds of stores. It cost a lot of money, millions of dollars. But it turned out it was a failure. The customer didn't care about it. So after half a year, they had to remove that product. So he wasted millions of dollars for the company. So the VP said, oh, I'm responsible for this failure. I cost the company a lot of money. So he's turning his resignation. He said, I must be responsible for it. Yeah. So I sent in my resignation to the president. He made a big mistake. You know what the president said? The president said, You want to quit? Are you kidding me? I spent millions of dollars for you to learn a lesson. There's no way I'm going to let you go now. That's what he said. So you can imagine the VP, he was so grateful. He was so grateful that the president trusts him, trusts his abilities. He said, I pay you the tuition to learn this experience. I won't let you go. I'm going to let you try again. I will continue to make you our VP to come up with new products. Everybody make mistakes, right? That's okay. That's okay. Don't give up. Next time, maybe you'll be more successful. Or maybe not. That's okay. You keep on trying. Every time you learn something. So the VP went back, learned from his experience, and spent even more money on the new product. And that product was successful, and it brought in tens of millions of dollars profit for the company. But the important thing is the president's mentality, right? How the president look at this. He didn't say, you cost me millions of dollars, pay me back. No. He didn't say, you made a mistake, I'm gonna fire you. No. He doesn't see it as bad or good. Right? It's not a duality. It's either good or bad. The president didn't see that. He said, that's a valuable experience. We can all learn something from this. Why does a product fail? Why does a product become successful? Every time you have a bad product, you learn something more about the Taiwanese consumer. Yeah? So that's valuable tuition for us. Life is like that too. Don't be afraid to make a mistake, but you want to learn something from it. Yeah? Don't make the same mistake over and over again. But the thing is, let's learn from our experiences. Yeah? I often hear people say, oh, I got married to the wrong guy. Yeah? Do you know your friend who got married to the wrong guy? They got married, a few years later they divorced. So we say, no, you didn't marry the wrong guy. You married the right guy at that time. At that time. You cannot speak for yourself from 3 years ago, right? At that time, you made the best decision you could. 3 years later, you changed. They changed. He or she changed. You guys didn't work out the problems and then grew apart. It's not about right or wrong. It's about what you learn from this experience. So there's no point regretting your decision from the past. It's not a good decision, bad. It's a decision you made. Accept it. But do you learn something from that experience? And the next time you want to marry somebody, you'll be wiser if you learn from that experience. Or maybe you become even wiser, you become a monk. So you don't make, it's not a wrong decision. But every time you make a decision, try to make the best decision, right? But you never know all the information. So you make a decision, things happen. Maybe it goes well, maybe it doesn't go well. That doesn't invalidate what you did in the past. Don't regret, but learn. So good and bad is relative. When I was in college, there was a class called Computer Science Theory. Yeah. So we learned about the theory of computers. And the professor was very tough. One exam, he gave a problem where to design the algorithm, or how to, in principle, how to solve the problem using computers. It's called algorithm. So I did my best, but there's a small part I couldn't figure out how to do using computer algorithm. So I just left it there and tried to fuzzy it up, cover it up. But, well, to me, I think 80% is good. 20%, okay, I just cover it up. So I turned in the exam, and then I got, out of 100, I got 20. Wait a minute, that's not right. I did most of the work. This little part I couldn't figure out, right? Why do you give me such a low score? So I went to talk to the professor. The professor looked at it. He said, 20 is too high. You should have gotten lower. Ooh, he was mean. I hated that professor. But you can't argue with the professor, so I left. I hated that professor for a long time until I got a job. I graduated, I got a job, more working real life experience. I realized one day he was right. He was right, because computer program, computer algorithm, you cannot have a small part that doesn't work. If a small part doesn't work, talking a bug, and the computer program doesn't work, the whole thing doesn't work, he should have given me 0. Right? He was trying to teach me the standard, professional standard. It's not about being a good guy, being a likable professor. It's about teaching the student what he needs to learn. So many years later, I appreciated this professor for being so tough. Was that a good experience when I got 20? Or bad experience? Well, it is an experience. Maybe if I don't know Buddhism, I will always hate that professor. And to me, that will always be a bad experience. But luckily, I learned about the Dharma. I learned about the emptiness of good and bad, the different possibilities, the different angles of looking at something. Then I learned to appreciate he has a good point. It's because people like him that you have great development and great technology and great advancement. People who don't compromise, who try to teach the students not to compromise and learn the best. Yeah? So, these are the things in life. Don't be trapped into the thinking of good and bad. That's why Master Huinan, the sixth patriarch, he said, be still. Don't get emotional, don't get reactive. Don't react out of habit. We have learned many useful things from our parents and teachers, but we also have learned some not so good behavior from our parents and grown-ups as we grow up, because we always react to good with happiness and bad with anger. Adults do that. So we think that's the way to do it. That's the way I should react. But if you always react that way, you don't learn from the experience. Be still. Remain still in good and bad situations, and then you have a chance to see more clearly what's really going on. So that's why we call it the emptiness of good and bad. Emptiness is a very important concept in Buddhism. It's the core. But it's easily misunderstood. When we say good and bad is empty, we don't mean that there's no good, there's no bad. We mean there's relative good and bad. Good and bad is relative. Good and bad is impermanent. Good and bad is not final. You know, losing a horse, relatively is bad. For the short time it's bad. But in the longer time, maybe it's good. And even longer time, maybe it's bad. You know, even longer time, maybe it's good. What is the point? The point is not this is good or bad. The point is, what do you learn from this? What does this teach you? What does this teach you about reality? There's no final decision on what is good and bad. Yeah? In Germany, you experience a lot of wars, a lot of failures. Yeah? But out of that failure, after World War II, you became one of the strongest nations in Europe. What is good, what is bad? Out of World War II, the world suffered greatly, right? Everybody in the world suffered. But then the world come together and realize, wow, peace is so important. Let us form a United Nations or a consensus how to prevent war. Maybe sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work, we don't know. But at least there's a consensus in general. War is not good, peace is good. Yeah? But still, we're still learning. We still don't know how to have peace. Why? Because Buddha said you need more insight. You need more insight to make peace last longer. What insight? Insight into your mind. Well, I point here, it's not really here. It's not here or here, it's just mind, okay? It's not anywhere. We need more insight into the nature of people, the nature of greed, the nature of anger, the nature of ignorance, the nature of wisdom. But that's complicated. We need to have a clear mind to see into ourselves. So sitting, 禅, 坐禅, Zazen. Sit is to remain still. Let your mind remain still. Practice remaining still. How? How do you practice remaining still? Well, that's why there is a meditation center here, the Chan center here. There's many different methods that Buddhism have developed. Not just 1, 2, 3 method. Not just watching the breath. There are dozens of methods to help people. So if you continue to learn, you learn more. You learn about counting the breath. You learn about observing the breath. You learn about the middle way reality meditation. You learn about the 4 foundations of mindfulness. Mindfulness of the body, mindfulness of feeling, mindfulness of the mind, mindfulness of dharmas. So all of these things, Shifu will teach you if you continue to learn. Many different ways to help you learn to become and clear and see closer to reality. Now, if your mind is still, it becomes more clear. When it's more clear, you can see more clearly. That's your experience too, right? Even if you're not a Buddhist, if you're new, you see that in our world. Water, muddy, clear water, you see it. If the water is clear, you see everything inside. That's our experience. It's true with our mind too. And so the mind is clear, you can see the truth better. You can see the details better. You can see the things that you ignored. As opposed to wearing a colored glasses, you see everything colored. Yeah? That's what our consciousness sometimes do. We have biased views. We heard somebody say something, oh, that must be right, but we don't examine it. We don't try to have a clear mind to examine whether this is true or not. And we have biased views on certain things. So clear mind is important. Now question, how clear can your mind be? How sharp, clear, how clear can your mind be? How much can you see? The answer is no limit. No limit. No limit. And so when you see the truth about yourself, it's what we call enlightenment. That's a milestone. That's not the end. That's not the end of Buddhist practice. It is a milestone. It's the key part when you see the truth about yourself. What you really are. When you see that, you will understand life and death. But that is a beginning. When you see this, you understand people's suffering, where they come from. If you come to the level 1 Buddhism, the Buddhism class here, you will learn about the Four Noble Truths. The Four Noble Truths explains why people suffer, starting with our mind. So we don't understand our mind, we don't understand ultimately why people continue to cause suffering to each other. So from the Four Noble Truths, you learn about what causes suffering and how to end that suffering, the Eightfold Path. Okay? So Buddha explained that because he had that ultimate clear mind. Right now, we don't have that ultimate clear mind yet. But we can still learn. We can still learn the Four Noble Truths and say, does it make sense? Yeah, I believe it makes sense. I believe everybody, whether you're a Buddhist or not a Buddhist, if you sincerely study the Four Noble Truths, you will agree with it. You will agree with it. I challenge anybody to tell me the Four Noble Truths is not the truth. I will argue with anybody. Not argue, discussion. I'm confident if you're sincere and objective and you think about the Four Noble Truths, you will understand, you will agree, and you will begin to understand why people do things that cause others and themselves suffer. So there's a lot to learn, but it begins with still your mind, clear your mind, and the mind can be so powerful, so clear as to see everything. I'm not there yet, but I know from my own experience, it helped me so much to understand what is going on and to help many people clear away their misunderstanding about themselves, about their partner, about their children, about their work. So, sitting meditation, that's why it's important. But you can't just stop here, practice sitting meditation. You want to practice walking meditation. You want to practice mindfulness in daily life, starting with simple actions. You got to start with simple actions, remain mindful and clear-minded, and then gradually you can challenge yourself to more complicated tasks, doing it with mindfulness. That's how it goes. Now, there's another passage, the sentence that follows right after that one, that I also want to talk about. It says, 和名禅定，外离相为禅，内不乱为定. So, a translation of that is, what is meditative absorption or samadhi? So samadhi is a Sanskrit Indian word. It denotes a very deep, focused mental state. usually achieved by meditation. It is possible for people who don't meditate to go into samadhi, but it's very rare. Meditation is the training of the mind. So you can become so focused, so still, so clear, and you achieve a state called samadhi, 禅定, or literally 禅 or meditative absorption. Absorb means your mind is totally, completely absorbed in a state that's complete concentration. Okay, so what is 禅定? 禅 meditation, 定 samadhi. But here is what the Master Huineng, how he redefines the two words. He said, 禅 is to relinquish all appearances and notions. That's 禅. To relinquish, to not get attached, to not get trapped in appearances and notions, concepts, ideas. To relinquish, to let go of all appearances and notions. That is 禅. That is meditate. That is to meditate. That's 禅 meditation. And 定, or concentration, absorption, to remain undisturbed inside. That is 定, or samadhi. To remain undisturbed inside. Let's talk about the second part first. To remain undisturbed. It's the same idea, right? Remain still. Remain undisturbed. Well, what does it mean, undisturbed? Somebody tell you a good news, you jump up. Somebody tell you bad news, you cry. That's okay. That's an ordinary reaction. Nothing wrong with that. But it doesn't lead to wisdom. Remain undisturbed. That is very important. Why? Because that is where you can discover true peace of mind and true happiness. Remain undisturbed. You're like a rock. That's so boring. Yeah? No, not true. What does it mean to remain undisturbed? That is samadhi. That is定. That is deep concentration. That's why we practice meditation, to remain undisturbed. For example, somebody insult you. You remain undisturbed. If you remain undisturbed, you don't suffer. You're disturbed, you suffer. Right? So, can you guarantee that nobody will insult you for the rest of your life? Can you do that? Can you guarantee that? You can't. So if you suffer because somebody insult you, then you will never be happy. You can never guarantee your happiness. Your life is being controlled by somebody. But that's not true. Somebody insult you, you don't have to suffer. You don't have to be disturbed. You can remain undisturbed. Shifu talked about that a couple of nights ago too. Yeah? If it's somebody insult you for no reason, for no good reason, you just think of it as a gift, unwanted gift. You just throw it away. You decide to keep the gift or throw away the gift. Everything that people say to you is a gift. You decide. You want to keep this gift, whether it's useful, or throw away. Yeah? It's your choice. When you do that, your mind is undisturbed by people's words. Right? Easy? Easy. In principle. Hard in practice. Why? Because you didn't practice. Yeah? Playing piano is easy? Who plays piano here? Easy, right? Easy if you practice 10 years. But very hard if you haven't practiced. Same thing, just like everything in life. So meditation is not hard. It's not hard. But we haven't practiced. We learned everything else. We didn't learn mindfulness. Or we learned it, we didn't practice that much. You practice 5 minutes a day, 10 minutes a day, or 2 hours a week. Is that enough? Nah, it's not enough. Make it part of your life because it's so important. It ends your suffering. Take you closer to happiness. How important is that to you? If you think it's important, you want to practice every day. You come here once a week to learn the teaching. You go home 6 days a week, you practice. Right? It's not, oh, I go to a meditation center every week, I'm diligent. How come I'm not enlightened after 2 years? Yeah? It's like you take a piano lesson for 2 hours a week. How come I can't play after 2 years? Same thing. You practice mindfulness. You learn how to practice mindfulness, how to sit Chan, how to 坐禅, and you practice every day. In small actions, simple actions. Walking from here to there, from your parking lot to work, to your office, or from your parking lot to your classroom. You walk from here to the grocery store. Yeah, practice mindfulness. When you lie in bed, you want to take a rest for 15 minutes, practice mindfulness. It's actually good rest. Let the mind be still. That give you better quality rest. Before you go to sleep, if you have a lot of dreams, you wake up tired, practice mindfulness, meditation before you go to sleep. Even chanting the Heart Sutra, or just meditate, and you have better sleep over time. So practice. So remain undisturbed. When our mind is disturbed by outside situation, then our life is being controlled by other people. When our mind is undisturbed by outside situations, then nobody controls me. Regardless of what is good or bad. Do you see that? Do you see that? Do you see how valuable that is? It's not possible immediately, but it is. You get better with practice. What disturbs you? What troubles you? Everybody's different, so think about something simple, not something too hard. Okay? If you don't begin with a very hard question, don't begin with a PhD research problem. Begin with something simple that bothers you in life. You know, oh, the food prices are going up. That bothers you, right? Maybe it's a good time to lose weight. Or maybe it's time to eat more slowly and digest better. Maybe I meditate more and save energy. There are many ways to deal with. There are things happening that we cannot change, control, right? But we can. People are smart. Humans are smart. We can find ways to deal with it. Don't let this control you. Everything that happens, some people deal with it better, some people deal with it worse. Be the person that deals with it better. remain undisturbed is the key. There's a French businessman. I think he's the chief editor of a fashion magazine. I forget which fashion magazine. I don't know that much about fashion magazine. But he's a very famous fashion magazine chief editor. So he's successful. He makes a lot of money. He's successful in his career. He has wife and kids. He's about 50, 55 years old. He's on top of the world. One day, he feels something numbness in his arm. He went to have a physical checkup. Doctor told him, you have a rare disease, uncurable. You will be paralyzed. Your whole body will be paralyzed and you will die. That's what he discovered one day. All of a sudden, his life flipped. His life flipped from top of the world to the bottom. And he was hospitalized. In 2 weeks, he could not move from his neck down. Now, that's a tragedy, right? But he didn't give up. He learned something from that. Because he's becoming more paralyzed, he cannot even talk anymore. But he learned something in hospital. Lying in bed, he couldn't move. He can only see from the corner of his eyes the window. Sometimes the window is open, the wind comes in, and the curtains fly in the wind. He said, wow, I never noticed that is so beautiful. The curtain swinging in the wind, so beautiful. And the nurse that feeds him, right? He couldn't eat. The nurse feeds him. Sometimes he don't even see the nurse, he just see the hand. He said, the hand is so beautiful. The hand that feed me is so beautiful. Begin to notice little things in life that's so ordinary, but when you see it with detail, it is beautiful. He thought that was beautiful. So he wanted to write a book. But he can't write, he can't type, he can't talk. How does he write a book? He has his secretary and his wife take turns come in. They read the French alphabet. Anybody know that story? Yeah? They read the French alphabet. If it's the alphabet he wants, he blink twice. If it's not, he blink once. So they spell each alphabet to make the word, to make the book. The book, the diving bell and the butterfly. The diving bell is a big, huge metal thing. You put somebody in there, it goes into the deep ocean to do experiments, to do observations. So it's the man is stuck inside, right? To protect him from the ocean pressure. Scientists go down there to observe ocean data. That's called the diving bell. You're trapped in a diving bell, you can't go out. His mind is like that, trapped in the body, he can't go out. The diving bell and the butterfly, but he felt like a butterfly. He felt like a butterfly. It's a beautiful little book. It's a small book, beautiful book. The day that the book is published, he passed away. But he gave such a beautiful lesson, a Buddhist lesson. To me, it's a Buddhist lesson. He's not Buddhist, but it's a Buddhist lesson. So we are much better than he is, right? We are not in bed, paralyzed, dying. There's a lot to be grateful. There's a lot to be grateful about our life today, right now, every day. Even though many things are not going well, but we still have our eyes to see. We have ears that we can hear. We have fingers that can move, that can do things. We can cook. We can eat ourselves. We are so blessed. And this is possible because of my parents raised me, because the government provided for me, right? Protected me. And so many different people worked together to make my life every day possible. There's so much to be grateful. And you can see this clearly when your mind is still. You can see the connections we have with each other. It's so wonderful to have so many people here wanting to learn about mindfulness and Buddhism. When I started learning Buddhism, none of my friends was interested. I don't have a center to go to. I don't have anybody. I have to read on my own, and I have questions. I don't know where to find answers. There's no internet yet. I did this for 5 years until I finally found other Buddhist friends. It's so lucky, so blessed. When your mind is clear and not upset and emotional, you begin to see how blessed you are. That's just one of the things that we tend to ignore. We complain about children being unwieldy and not being rebellious. It's blessed to have children. They're alive. Yeah? It's amazing. So many little things to be grateful about. You can see this yourself when your mind is undisturbed. When your mind is undisturbed, you don't waste energy complaining and getting upset about what you cannot change. You focus your energy on what you can do to make your life a little bit better, to notice the wind. I was taking a walk with Shifu close to the lake. Yeah, it's amazing to me that it's like a city here, right? City, and then you walk for 15 minutes, and then you get into the forest. I live in California. It's so overdeveloped that you have to drive 20 minutes or 30 minutes to get to a forest. Almost everywhere in California is like that. But here, you have the convenience of the stores. You can just walk. If you live here, you can walk to all these stores, grocery stores, market, and you can walk to a forest and to a lake. That's such a blessing. It's so amazing. Yeah, I didn't realize how overdeveloped Bay Area, San Francisco Bay Area was until I came here. So there are things that you enjoy every day that many people in the world don't have. Yeah. So now we need to talk about the last part, which is to relinquish our appearances and notions, to let go, to not cling to appearances and notions. Now, we develop as a human civilization, we produce many concepts, ideas, appearances. It become important because it helps us understand the world, communicate with each other, invent things, build things, right? So those are good. But sometimes we get trapped in our own creation. Appearance, for example. I was going through high school in America. I went to high school in America. One of my teachers, he was a very funny teacher. He's a history teacher, American history teacher. I thought I would hate American history because Chinese history, 5,000 years. Beautiful, rich history. American history, 200 years. Silly. But he was a very interesting teacher. He made the history interesting. So it's not the subject, it's the teaching. So the American history teacher, he once told us, he said, all of you girls now want to be slim. But only 50 years ago in America, being big and strong and fat is good. It's beautiful because you need to work in the farm. You need to produce a lot of children. You need to be strong. So that's big is beautiful. Well, that's probably true in China too, right? But I didn't know it was true in America too, only 50 years ago. So every generation will have a different idea of what is beautiful and what is good looking, and it changes. And then if we don't realize that all of that is human made, then we get trapped We get trapped. We try to pursue, oh, what is the latest fashion? What is how to be beautiful? What is the latest fashionable clothes to wear? I don't understand fashion. So I'm very happy that I'm a monk and I don't have to choose. I wear this same style, the same style that was fashionable for thousands of years. That's great. I don't have to worry about whether I get a good haircut or not. That's great. But that's just me. But appearance is useful to some point. But don't cling to it. Don't get too attached to it. You need a balance, right? You need a balance. I used to think, because I was a monk, I used to think women wearing makeup, useless, waste of time. But now I learn better. I said, okay, you want to look presentable. It's okay. You want a little bit of makeup, it's okay. You want to look presentable. That is part of that's part of society norm. Nothing wrong with it. Right? Balance. It's a balance, right? So, appearances. We sometimes get attached to the way the person look or the way the person talk. That's also appearance. Like the professor, the computer science theory professor, he doesn't talk much. 20 points, too high for you. Yeah? He doesn't explain. But his intention is good. It took me many years to get beyond the appearance of his words and his manners to get to the heart of his teaching, right? And sometimes people is like that. This person may look difficult, may look harsh, may look critical, but maybe there's something valuable you can learn from that person. Get beyond the appearances. Appearance of your boss. Appearance of the salesperson. Appearance of anybody. Relinquish our notions. Notions, ideas, concepts are useful, but to a point. It's all relative. So we have created notions. And we have formed ideas or judgment about a notion. And sometimes that can become very damaging. For example, for us as Chinese, during World War II, before World War II, Japan invaded China, killed a lot of people there. So there's a notion, Japanese are evil, right? Not everybody, but it's popular. And then I came to America, I met some Japanese friends. They're just regular people. Yeah, there was some evil person in power. But you get to know them. Oh, they're just regular people. They live, they want to have good food. They try to be happy, they don't want to be unhappy. You can't say this nation is evil. This people is bad. Yeah, some are very bad and very hurtful. But you can't just judge a whole group like that. You can't judge a whole nation, a whole group like that. There's so many different people with different ideas, agreeing and disagreeing with whatever policy is there. Same thing with a company. As you have a company, and there's a competitor. Oh, they are evil. Maybe you can learn something from your competitor. Yeah? So, notions, small notions, big notions, if they're helpful to some point, but we need to be objective, understand they are relative, impermanent. You try to find what is the truth. Yeah? Pigs. What do you think of pig? When you say pigs, what do you think about? Pork. Good food? No, some people think you can't eat pork. Yeah, some religions say you can't eat pork. It's nasty or it's bad. So everybody think differently. And vegetarians, no, they are living animals. We don't kill them. Different notions. But let's not try to force our notions to others. Let's try to explain why you think this notion is useful. But let's not try to force them, right? In America, there's an idea of freedom and democracy. And they try to force it on everybody. Yeah, freedom is good. Democracy is good, in principle. But there's many ways to realize democracy, to practice democracy. And everybody has a different idea of freedom. In China, we value different ways to be free. That's different from Americans. So when you think my idea of freedom of speech is important. So everybody should have freedom of speech. That's not freedom of speech, right? Other nations with different cultures, they have a different idea of what is more important to be free. The freedom to have inexpensive medical care, which you do not have in America. But many other countries, less developed countries have. They think that kind of freedom is more important. Yeah? It's just an example. Smaller examples. You go to a market, try to buy some apples. Yeah? What kind of apples do you try to pick? The big, beautiful, shiny ones? Or the ugly, smaller, not so pretty ones with probably a hole, the bug? Which one do you buy? Why would you not buy the big shiny ones? Well, because the big shiny ones are mass-produced. Mass-produced, probably a lot of chemical fertilizers and chemical, herbicides and sprayed on it. That's why they all look big and beautiful, because bugs are all dead. Whereas organic apples, they tend to be different shaped, some large, some small. They don't look as pretty, maybe even buggies to drill a hole in there, but it's organic, right? What is good? What is good? What is the most expensive flower? When you go to a flower shop, what is the most expensive flower? Yeah, I don't know. Maybe orchid is expensive. Yeah, it's beautiful flower. But there's a little flower on the side of the road, wild little nameless flower. Is it any less beautiful? Maybe I take a picture, I blow it up, do some photographic rendering. Wow, beautiful flower. What's the name of this flower? It's just a wild flower growing outside on the street. Which is more beautiful? This notion. Yeah? Van Gogh wasn't able to sell his painting. Nobody valued it when he was alive. And now it's millions and millions of dollars. Notions. Relative. This is not a judgment. It's just realize notions are relative. Yeah? In Taiwan, 50 years ago, we were poor, very poor. And then there were these vegetables, wild vegetables, that even the poor people would not eat. They would feed it to the pigs. Okay? 50 years later, Taiwan is a lot more developed. People are, more well off. And those wild vegetables that they fade to the peak become expensive because they are more nutritious, they are organic, they are strong because they grow in the wild, they are very resilient, they are tough, so they have a lot of energy. Oh, okay, so then it costs a lot of money. What is good food? What is cheap food? Is cheap food less good for you? Not necessarily, right? So notions, be careful of notions. Use them wisely, otherwise we can make a lot of mistakes and make each other suffer. So Huinan said, relinquish our appearances and notions. It doesn't mean that you don't use notions. You have to have ideas, you have to have judgments, it's okay. But be clear-minded. What is the limit of that judgment? What is the limit of that decision? What is the limit of that notion? Okay? And that helps your mind remain undisturbed. And when your mind is undisturbed, your mind is more clear. When your mind is more clear, you see more of reality. And when you see more of reality of yourself, when you see the truth about yourself, that's called enlightenment. That's Chan meditation. That's what Chan meditation is about. All the forms, all the appearances are useful tools to help you. But if you sit here for 8 hours, but your mind is not settling, that's not Chan meditation. If you work all day, you only have 15 minutes to meditate, but as you work, you try to be mindful and undisturbed, you're practicing Chan meditation. Okay? I will stop here. And we hope to see you in the future. By the way, that's not all Master Huinan said about Chan meditation. He has more, a lot more.